People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. So, but the problem with her is that she went full racist.
I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, you know, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was, my family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
It was a day Houston will never forget. And not for any of the good reasons. The moment that took everyone by surprise, turning into the most jaw-dropping confrontation ever caught on live TV. It started with Sunny Hostin and ended with a brutal takedown by none other than Greg Gutfeld, who didn't just criticize, he obliterated everything Sunny stood for, leaving her in the most awkward meltdown you can imagine. You won't want to miss a second of this, trust me. You're about to witness the clash of the century, and it all started with Sunny's shocking revelation that completely backfired. So how did this fiery drama come to life? Well, it all began when Sunny Hostin, known for her fiery takes on race, identity, and systemic oppression, made a stunning admission on PBS's show Finding Your Roots, a program that dives deep into celebrity family histories. Sunny found herself face to face with a truth that would leave even the most composed person speechless. Turns out her ancestors weren't just victims of oppression, they were the oppressors. Her third great-grandfather was a slaveholder. Can you even believe that? Sunny was visibly shocked, her face filled with disbelief. In the mid of the video, don't forget to subscribe my channel and like this video and share your thoughts in comments section below.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that, and I think it's great for our children to know this information. I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living.
The reaction was nothing short of explosive. Now, for those who don't know, Sunny has spent her career publicly criticizing America's troubled past, especially when it comes to race and the long-lasting effects of slavery. So, you can imagine the irony when this bombshell dropped. He pounced on her with the precision of a seasoned pro, and before Sunny even had time to process, he fired off a burning question. Now that you know your family's past, are you going to rethink your constant lectures about America's history of racism? The room fell silent as Sunny tried to respond. She was stunned, but Gutfeld wasn't finished. Let's break this down. Sunny, who has often blamed America for its deep-seated issues with race and slavery, suddenly had to confront the uncomfortable truth of her own bloodline. Her ancestors, rather than being victims, were slave owners. Talk about a plot twist, right? You can't make this stuff up. Gutfeld didn't just let this slide. He went in for the kill, pointing out the double standard she had been living by. How could Sunny preach about systemic oppression and denounce America's racist past when her own family was part of that history? The nerve. As if that wasn't enough, Gutfeld couldn't help but mock Sunny's complete lack of self-awareness. His words were ruthless. So, Sunny, now that you know about your own family's connection to slavery, are you still going to lecture America on racism? Is this the moment we finally get to see a change in your narrative? The audience gasped. It was pure gold. And if that wasn't enough, Gutfeld didn't stop there. He also mocked her tone-deaf reaction to the discovery. Sunny's response? Well, that's just what they did back then. Wow. Is that all? The dismissive tone was palpable. How could she just shrug it off like that after spending years calling out others for their historic wrongs? This was the ultimate confrontation, the clash between two people with completely different views on race, history, and accountability. And the thing is, Sunny didn't even seem to realize the irony of it all.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. So, but the problem with her is that she went full racist.
Here she was, standing on her soapbox, lecturing everyone about the evils of slavery, while her own ancestors had been part of the problem, and Gutfeld, he couldn't let that hypocrisy slide. As the conversation continued, it was clear that Gutfeld wasn't just targeting Sonny. He was calling out the entire culture of identity politics that has dominated American discourse for so long. He wasn't letting Sonny off the hook, and he wasn't about to let her deflect either. Do you now see your family's history differently, Sonny? Gutfeld pressed, eager for any sign of growth. But Sonny remained silent, her shock clearly evident. She didn't know how to handle the unexpected revelation. And who could blame her? This was a huge moment, a game changer. Now, as Sonny continued to stammer, trying to find the right words, Gutfeld couldn't help but call attention to the irony that had just been laid bare. How could someone so entrenched in identity politics and so quick to call out America for its past suddenly brush off the role her own family played in that very history? The hypocrisy was just too much to ignore. It was a gut punch that Sonny wasn't prepared for. And honestly, Gutfeld's critique wasn't just about Sonny. It was about everyone who has ever used identity politics to lecture others while ignoring their own truths. And then it hit. Social media went wild. Fans of Gutfeld flooded Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, praising him for calling Sonny out in the most epic way. It wasn't just about the drama, though. People were quick to point out that this was a perfect example of the double standards that exist within the conversation on race and history. One user tweeted, "Sonny Hostin learning her family was involved in slavery? Talk about a plot twist. But Gutfeld's reaction? Absolutely priceless." Another chimed in, "Finally, someone called out the hypocrisy. Sonny's always lecturing us on racism, but now we know the truth about her own family." Gutfeld had become the hero in this viral drama, and fans weren't shy about giving him credit. But of course, Sonny's defenders were quick to jump in and claim that Gutfeld's takedown was unfair. They argued that she was simply processing new information and that Gutfeld was being too harsh. Yet, as many pointed out, Sonny's tone and lack of accountability made it seem as though she was more interested in deflecting than reflecting on her family's dark past. Her refusal to truly acknowledge the significance of her family's actions only added fuel to the fire. But of course, with controversy like this, there were always defenders. Supporters of Sonny rallied to her side, claiming that her reaction wasn't about deflecting, it was about processing new information. They argued that no one should be so harsh on someone grappling with their own family's history, especially when it's something as sensitive as slavery. Fair enough, right? Some said, "Give her a break. She just found out." But here's the kicker. This wasn't just some random, isolated incident. Sonny Hostin has lectured the American public for years about the systemic nature of racism, the historical damage done by slavery, and how deep the roots of oppression run. For her to act as though her family's involvement in slavery was simply a matter of what they did back then was, to many, a massive double standard. Greg Gutfeld didn't hold back, calling out Sonny's dismissiveness. He questioned whether she would continue to shame the descendants of slaveholders, knowing that her own bloodline was tainted by this history. "Will you continue to lecture America on race now that you're part of that history?" Gutfeld fired off this question, leaving Sonny speechless. And that's when the viewers at home lost it. The internet couldn't stop talking about this moment. Comments flooded in from all sides, but one thing was clear. Gutfeld's point hit hard, and Sonny didn't have a solid defense. It was one thing for Sonny to pontificate on racial issues, but now she was facing the ultimate test, her own family's past. If Sonny was going to continue to cast stones at everyone else for their historical wrongs, then how could she possibly avoid confronting her own? Could she keep up with her anti-racism crusade when the skeletons in her closet came crawling out? The whole nation seemed to be watching, waiting for Sonny's next move. Was she going to acknowledge the irony and use this moment as a chance for self-reflection? Or was she going to double down and keep pushing her familiar narrative, even though her own family was deeply involved in the horrors of slavery? But here's where it gets even juicier. As Gutfeld kept hammering Sunny with questions, the entire tone of the debate shifted. This wasn't just about Sunny's hypocrisy anymore. This was about something bigger, the entire conversation surrounding race and history in America. Gutfeld, with his brutal honesty, had just opened up a Pandora's box. He wasn't just exposing Sunny, he was calling out an entire culture of deflection and victimhood that has dominated the conversation for so long. Gutfeld wasn't afraid to ask the tough questions, questions that most people were too afraid to touch. And this is when the controversy reached its peak. The fallout from the segment was immediate. Major news outlets, bloggers, and YouTube channels exploded with reactions. The reactions were polarized. You either sided with Gutfeld and praised his sharp critique, or you stood with Sunny, defending her right to process her family's history at her own pace. But no matter where you stood, one thing was clear. This moment was about to become part of America's cultural zeitgeist. Gutfeld had become the underdog hero, and Sunny, well, she was left trying to figure out how to respond. The controversy didn't stop there. This wasn't just about Gutfeld making Sunny squirm, it was about the deeper issue of how we deal with our collective past and the role that identity politics plays in shaping how we move forward. Would Sunny use this moment to grow and become a more nuanced voice in the race conversation? Or would this be just another moment of deflection, a chance for her to hide behind her usual rhetoric and avoid the hard truths? The world was waiting for her response. And just when you thought the drama couldn't get any more intense, Gutfeld hit her with the perfect question that was about to change everything. Now that you know your own family was part of the problem, are you going to change your stance on everything you've said about America's past? This was the question that could shatter Sunny's carefully constructed narrative, and the world was holding its breath to see if she would finally admit to her own hypocrisy, or if she would continue to ignore her family's dark legacy. The controversy was far from over, and Sunny Hostin's next move would make or break her in the eyes of the public. As Gutfeld continued to hammer home his point, it became clear this wasn't just a battle between two people. It was a larger commentary on race, history, and accountability. Gutfeld was exposing the hypocrisy that often lies at the heart of identity politics. He was calling for everyone to face the uncomfortable truths about history, including themselves. He wasn't letting Sunny off the hook just because she didn't want to confront her family's history. The irony was too rich, and the hypocrisy was just too glaring to ignore. And in the middle of all this, Sunny was forced to confront a reality she wasn't ready to face. The controversy sparked by her family's connection to slavery forced her to ask, can she continue to preach about systemic racism when her own family was complicit in it? And the answer, as the drama unfolded, was clear. It's not so easy when the past comes crashing into your own personal story. And Gutfeld wasn't about to let her forget it. Let's leave it here for now, but trust me, this story is far from over.